Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Enjoyed your 3-day weekend. Let's get back into it. So if you see here, Tuesday, April 7th, we're going to get going into Unit 7. Before we do that, just a couple of reminders. So the summative FRQ that you did, when was that? Friday, should be in the grade book, as well as I should have left comments on there if you lost any points. So strongly suggest you go back and look at that if you lost any points. Essentially, for each term, you got 1 point for defining, 1 point for applying, and the application had to be you describing your own personality. Remember, your AP exam, which one of these days we're going to talk about, is solely FRQs. So make sure if you have questions about why you lost points, anything like that, let me know sooner rather than later. So let's go ahead, jump into Unit 7. Your virtual learning lessons plans are up there. So today I'm going to quickly talk about attachment. I'll give you a general introduction to developmental psychology. We'll talk about attachment research and what that has told us about who we attach to. And then you'll do an assignment here. So you'll take notes on the attachment part of the lecture and then do parenting styles assignment. Pull that up here. You have to get this turned in by 11:59 tonight. So there's a link in there that'll help you identify the 4 parenting styles. Fourth one there. So there's going to be 4 parenting styles. You're going to find a video clip, and then you're going to explain how that video clip represents that parenting style. So that's got to be turned in by 11:59 p.m. tonight. The notes, you don't have to turn that in. Just take them because they'll be helpful. So Unit 7 here, developmental psychology. This is the last unit that will be on your AP exam. So it's just Unit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We are going to go over Unit 8, though, because it's abnormal psychology, which you find interesting, but it's also like a good review type unit. So here, developmental psychology, it's one of those units where you could probably have a whole class on, and actually people have a whole career devoted to developmental psychology, because essentially what we're looking at here is who or what has had the largest impact on who you are and who you will become. So develop, right? How do you change and become who you are? And we're looking at the idea of nature, and nurture is going to be a big part of this unit. So nature, biologically, what makes you develop a certain way. We don't talk a lot about that in class. We talk more about the nurture side of it. A lot of what you learned in health class is what you'll read about in the textbook in terms of how you develop biologically. Where we spend most of our time is talking about the nurture side. So what in your society influences you, the people you're raised around, and also how do you develop cognitively. Those are kind of the 2 big areas we look at. So the big question here, how do we change? Sorry, this is Unit 7. And the percentage doesn't really matter too much now because obviously the whole exam is thrown off. Just know it is included in your AP exam that you'll take May 19th. So our big question, how do we change physically, cognitively, and socially from womb to tomb? So biological is going to have a big impact on physically, which makes sense. It's also going to have an impact on cognitively, but then socially, a big part of that will be what we talk about with nurture. So developmental psychology, what exactly it is the study of how we change in terms of physical, cognitive, and social development. All right, so how do we change in those 3 areas? What we really focus on are famous theories of cognitive and social development. So this is a big unit with names. We have people like Harry Harlow, who we talked about today, Piaget, we'll talk about him tomorrow, Lawrence Kohlberg, and Erik Erikson's a big one that we talk about. So a lot of big names here that have theories, that did research that influence what we know about how we develop really cognitively and socially. So what we're going to do today, we're going to focus on some social development, especially in early childhood. So we'll talk about this idea of attachment and how we can study attachment, and then also look at parenting and how parenting impacts the development of children. And like I said, I'll talk about the attachment research, give you some background knowledge on that, and then your assignment is focused on the parenting styles. So how do we develop socially through childhood? The first experiment, the first research we're going to look at here is Harry Harlow. He's going to do an experiment on attachment in the 1950s. He was a researcher at UW-Madison, and that is where he did his research here, looking at this idea of attachment. So when we're talking about attachment in developmental psychology, we're talking about an emotional tie with another person. Typically, that's some sort of caregiver. All right, so when we're talking about attachment, it's that emotional tie, and that is going to having that emotional tie or not having that emotional tie is going to influence the development of those individuals. So Harlow is going to ask the question, what causes infants to attach to a specific individual? Now, if you put yourself in the 1950s, you have to look at this question through that lens. In the 1950s, we had very traditional family setups. And typically, in a traditional family setup, the child is going to attach to who? Give you a second to think. More than likely, it's going to be to the mother. Now, in the 1950s, and before Harry Harlow's experiment here, why do you think people thought it was the mother? Or why was the mother the one that children attached to? Now, most people during this time believed that the reason children attached to their mother was because the mother provided nourishment. Up until recently, breastfeeding was common and would last longer than it probably does now. So once again, Harry Harlow is asking this question: what causes infants to attach to a specific individual? Now, he doesn't believe it's nourishment. He believes it's comfort and security, in terms of someone provides that security blanket as they're exploring this brand new world, and that's who we become attached to. Now, the question becomes, how are you going to study that? Well, we're going to use monkeys. So here on the left, and I'll kind of talk through the pictures here. I am going to post a video on Google Classroom as well. If you want to see a little bit more of Harry Harlow's experiment, you can go ahead and watch those videos. Pretty interesting. So what Harry Harlow is going to do here, and this is a controversial study. People didn't necessarily think it was the most ethical because of the way he treated the monkeys and then the long-term impacts it had on the monkeys. So Harry Harlow is going to take monkeys when they are born from their original mother. So he's going to take them right away. They have no contact with their real life mother. What he's going to do is he's going to raise these monkeys with what he referred to as two artificial mothers, and that's what the picture here on the left is. So there was two artificial mothers that the monkey was raised by. We have on the left here, he referred to this one as the wire mother. It was made completely out of wire, and the thing you can't see here is that the wire mother, had the bottle that would feed the monkey. So this wire mother would provide nourishment, however, no comfort, no safety. The mother here on the right had a cloth over it, which provided comfort and safety. However, it did not have nourishment. Right? So we had nourishment with the wire monkey. With the cloth monkey, we have comfort and security. So the monkeys spent about 80% of their time on the cloth mother. And then the other 20% was just when it was having to eat or feed, it would be on the wire monkey. So that was the first sign that the monkey was attached to the one that provided nourishment and comfort. Now, the second part of the experiment or study was this little diabolical robot here that you see here. So this is and you see, if you watch the video, you'll see it a little bit more in depth. So essentially, this was like a, think of it as one of those like clapping monkeys, but it had really bright eyes, and it would flash and make a bunch of noise along with it. So what Harlow would do is when the monkey was off on its own, kind of in this cage, playing around, Harlow would bring this up to it. They'd kind of have it behind a box, right? So it was like an enclosed box. He'd move it up towards the baby monkey, and then he'd open one side of the box, and then this thing would trigger and go all crazy and scare the baby monkey. And then the question was, all right, which mother, wire or cloth, is the one going to go to get comfort and have that kind of safety? And then obviously that was the cloth mother. So according to Harlow, this is where we get into his conclusion, is that attachment is a result of comfort and security, not simply nourishment, which was originally believed. So this is, I put the picture of Linus here in his blanket, and you've probably seen kids too who they have that blanket they never want to put down, right? And they're kind of attached to it because that provides them their comfort and security. So this study is going to have a big impact on how parents really looked at providing for their young children, especially after, we're going to move into the next one here. We have Mary Ainsworth and the strange situation. So it would obviously be very unethical to take children when they're born from their original mother and raise them on a wire and cloth mother, which a lot of people say that it was unethical for Harry Harlow to do, because a lot of those, they would try to take those monkeys and put them in like zoos, but they could never do it. The monkeys could never do it because they couldn't get along with other monkeys. So there's like some long-term psychological monkey effects there. So Mary Ainsworth, she's going to create this strange situation, which is supposed to now look at not only what type of attachment can children have to their parents, but then also what's the long-term impact on the personality of that child or the temperament of that child. So she's going to create what's called the strange situation here. And this is one, going to observe how children interact with their primary caregiver, and then track the personality in the future and see if there's any correlation between the type of attachment a child has with their primary caregiver and their personality later on in life. So once again, I'm going to post a video of the experiment here so you can look at that and get a little better understanding if you need it. I'll kind of talk you through here. So start in the upper left. So step 1 and 2. So the mother and child are going to enter the room, and then the mother sits down while the child plays with toys in the room. So the children here were about between 1 and 2. So they're able to kind of explore on their own, play with toys on their own, however, still had kind of that need to be attached to their mother. Step 3, a stranger, so this is why it's called strange situation, stranger danger. Stranger would enter, would talk to the mother, and then would start to interact and play with the child while the mother was in the room. So it's kind of like, oh, I'm a stranger, but my mom's still there, so I'm good to go. However, the fourth step was the mother would then leave. Stranger would stay in the room, the mother would return, and the stranger leaves. All right, now the mother leaves again. So we get a bunch of, leaving and coming back, and the child is now alone. The stranger would then return and interact with the child and offer comfort. And now the last part, and this is where Mary Ainsworth would really focus on the reaction of the child to determine the type of attachment. The mother would return, the stranger would leave. And the way that Ainsworth described attachment was in stage 8 here. How would that child interact with the mother? And she comes up with 4 different attachment styles. So, secure attachment is the mother would return and be able to comfort the child, and then the child would return to playing. All right. According to Ainsworth, that was a very natural attachment. It was a secure attachment where the mother was able to comfort the child, and then the child understood, like, okay, like my safety net is here. I can now go back and explore. Avoidant would be that the mother would return and the child would not even really address it, would stay a lot of times unable to be calmed down or comforted. And it was avoidant, right? It avoided the fact that the parent was there, or would actually try and physically avoid the parent, like keep crawling away. Ambivalent was like the kid didn't really care. Like the kid wasn't upset that the parent left, and then the kid wasn't very, excited that the parent returned. And then disorganized, there wasn't a rhyme or reason. It just kind of depended on really the session. So kids would get categorized in these 4 styles. And you can see there she has specific parenting styles that go with it. And then she tracked them until they were adults, and then looked at were there similarities in their personalities, and she found that there were. Must be a rabbit or something. So secure children would be able to create meaningful relationships. They were empathetic in terms of they could understand and feel other people's emotions, and able to set appropriate boundaries. So that's like secure attachment is the best one. Like that's the one you want. Avoidant would be people who could not become emotionally close to other people. They would stay distant. They were very rigid, intolerant. That was avoidant. Ambivalent are people who are anxious and insecure, controlling, blaming, erratic, unpredictable. Sometimes they could be charming. And then disorganized, chaotic, insensitive, explosive, abusive, untrusting, even while craving security. Now understand that this is not cause and effect. Like there's no way that you can create an experiment and control for all the other variables to see cause and effect here, right? This is correlational, right? We can make predictions, but we cannot say that being a secure attachment leads to these personality characteristics. Like maybe the kid was born with these characteristics that resulted in secure attachment style, and now those personality traits have remained into adulthood. So Mary Ainsworth here, it's correlational. It allows us to make predictions. However, it's not cause and effect, because this would be a doozy of an experiment to create. So now this is going to lead into your assignment. So Diane Baumrind now in the 1960s, she's going to study more than 100 children, and she's going to do observational research on the impacts of parenting. So once again, just like Ainsworth, this is not cause and effect, it's correlational, descriptive research. So Baumrind is going to identify 3 parenting styles. And once again, she's going to predict that based off of these parenting styles, you can identify what type of personality and what type of relationships the kids will have as adults. So what you're going to use, and this is on the assignment, you're going to use the Very Well website to learn about the parenting styles. So Baumrind proposes 3. However, now we have 4. So in your assignment, you're going to apply all 4. So you're going to find a clip from a TV show or a movie, and if you have books too that you could describe, right? If you have a book that you think of that fits really well that isn't also made into a movie, you can just simply describe the book or the parent-child relationship in the book. So find a clip that represents each parenting style, explain why it represents it, so just explain how, and explain what impact that style may have on the child's development. And then here's your reminders. So you're going to do the parenting styles assignment, turn that into classroom, a couple of focus notes. And then if you do have free time, it's posted on Google Classroom. I'll talk more about it next week, though, when we really start to focus on the idea of reviewing, getting ready for your exam. But if you have free time, begin working on the Unit 1 through 3 review vocab packet. That's not due until the end of next week, but if you have some time, go ahead and get started on that. So like I said, the parenting styles in TV and film. So all 4 of the parenting styles, you put the parenting name of the parenting style here, a link to the YouTube clip, explain how it represents that style, and then what impact, according to Baumrind, would that style have on the child's development. So you do that for all 4. When you're done, turn it into Google Classroom. If you do have any questions, obviously send me an email. Make sure you look back at your FRQ from Unit 6. For Unit 7 here, I didn't talk about that, but Unit 7, you'll have a project, but then we'll also do another FRQ as well, because that's what your AP exam will be now, 2 free response questions. So if you have any questions, reach out to me, let me know. Other than that, have a great day. Make the most out of it.